Well, welcome to another episode on Genealogy TV. My name is Connie Knox. I am a lifelong genealogist here to help you go further faster and factually with your family research. Today, we're talking with Crista Cowan. She is with Ancestry. She's also known as the Barefoot Genealogist and appears regularly on the Ancestry YouTube channel, so you can catch her there. But she has some updates for us today, so we're going to jump into that here in just a moment. But before we do, I want to remind you that if you are new here, please subscribe and ring the bell so that you get notified each time we upload a video. And so, well, we're going to jump into that interview right now. Welcome, Krista. I'm so glad you're back with us again.
Thank you.
This time you have some updates for us. Tell us what's going on. We kind of teased about it last week. But
I've been talking about this for a couple of weeks now, and it just never gets less exciting. So Ancestry has partnered with the Arolsen Archive in Germany. It was formerly known as the ITS, or the International Tracing Service. They have collected over the last 70 years and created records pertaining to Nazi persecution during World War II. And in the events leading up to World War II. And then they have also got all the records of the relocation of the refugees throughout Europe in the two decades after the war. So millions and millions of records, and Ancestry is in the process of indexing several of those, and we've already put 2 of those databases online.
Fabulous.
Yeah, it is. It's really exciting. I can talk in detail about a couple of the databases. So the way that it worked historically, as the Allied troops came into Germany at the end of the war, they divided Germany into zones. So there's an American zone, a British zone, a French zone, and a Russian zone. And the soldiers from each of those zones essentially scooped up whatever records they could. The Germans were meticulous about the records that they kept, even about the crimes they were committing. And so those records were just kind of scooped up and labeled by zone. And so the first 2 sets of records that have come online with this announcement are both from the American zone. And then we're currently working on the British zone records, so those will come online in the future, and then the French zone and the Russian zone will follow after that. So this is a long-term project that Ancestry is engaged in with this archive, getting these records indexed and searchable. And as part of a philanthropic effort on Ancestry's part to make culturally sensitive and important records available to everyone, these records are available for anyone to search, regardless of whether you have a subscription or not. You don't even have to have an Ancestry account. If you just go to ancestry.com/alwaysremember, those records are fully searchable there for anyone.
Yes, and I know that when I've gone in there a couple times too, if people don't remember that website, you can always go to the card catalog, and that's under the search tab. Just scroll down to the card catalog and just type Holocaust. And in my case, when I did this just a moment ago, those were the top 2 sets of records that popped up. Of course, you could always sort by date to catch those as well.
Absolutely, yeah. So let's take a look at both of those sets of records. The first set of records is called the Africa, Asia, and Europe passenger lists of displaced persons, and they range in date from 1946 to 1971. There are about 1.7 million records in that particular collection. And basically they start at the end of the war. So after liberation in 1945, as the concentration camps were liberated, some of them were converted into what we call displaced persons camps or refugee camps. There were other refugee camps that were established throughout Germany. And not only those who had been liberated, but also then just refugees from all over Europe started pouring in. So of course there's a large population of people of Jewish heritage who had been incarcerated in the concentration camps, but then we also have numerous non-Jews whose homes had been destroyed or whose towns had been destroyed because of the conditions of the war throughout Europe during those preceding years. And so these displaced persons camps just grew, and it took years to deal with the refugee situation and the resettlement. And so basically these passenger lists are list of people who are being resettled out of Europe to the United States, Canada, Australia, parts of South America, and elsewhere throughout the world as different countries agreed to take in refugees from that particular crisis. And as the database title shows, that resettlement went right up till 1971. So it took several decades to get through all of that. And there are some stories in these records. I had the opportunity a couple of weeks ago to attend the Jewish Genealogy Conference, and I have met a lot of Holocaust survivors in my life because of the work that I do, particularly with the Jewish genealogy community. But this is the first time ever that I have met people who were born in those refugee camps. I don't know, it's just something that was so out of my purview before it didn't occur to me. Of course, now I think about it, it makes perfect sense that life went on and people were getting married and having babies, and it didn't matter what their living circumstances were. But I met 6 individuals at this conference alone who came to the Ancestry booth and said, "We heard you have these records, can you find me in these records?" And there were some just beautiful stories as we pulled up these records of these individuals with their parents who had survived the Holocaust, and then themselves as small children coming to Canada or coming to the United States.
Wow. I don't know if you had a chance to record any of that, but
not yet.
Oh my gosh, that, I'm sure there was some heartstrings being tugged there too. Wow.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it appears there's like 1.7 million of those records.
Yeah. Yep. So then the second database there is the Europe Registration of Foreigners and German Persecutees from 1939 to 1947. So specifically, these are the records created by the Germans of those that they were persecuting, and they are from the American zone, and they're for the war years. And that collection has 10.1 million records in it. And when you start to just think about the enormity of that, and you start to dig into these records, of course, the Jewish people who were persecuted by the Nazis, but then you also have, people who were of the clergy of other faiths, and gypsies and homosexuals, and there was such widespread persecution, and they documented a lot of that. And so we see this information start to come out in these records. I've spent a little bit of time with this collection, more with the passenger lists, just because of the nature of the work I've been doing in the last couple of weeks. But these records give you this glimpse into some of the things that were happening, and ultimately what happened to some of these people, because as war was tearing through Europe and as people were being displaced and then resettled, for decades they have wondered, what happened to my family? Did they survive? Were they killed? And these records served as that memory, and people were writing requests to the ITS for decades, and these records were the research the records that were the research was being done in to answer those requests or those queries. And this is the first time that they've been made available online and so accessible to people, because that generation of people who lived through the war, who had those questions, who experienced those things, they're dying out. And this is the last kind of opportunity for some of them to have those questions answered.
Wow. So
Yeah.
I want to think, did you guys tell us that there would be more of these records coming in the future?
Yeah, so this is just the records from the American zone. And so we are currently indexing the records from the British zone. So those will be released next. And then the Russian zone and the French zone will follow after that. So this is a long-term project. We didn't want to hold it back, though, until it was all complete. And so we've released these first 2 databases as part of the announcement of the partnership with us and the archive.
Well, I think it's a terrific undertaking that you guys have taken on, and the fact that they're available for free. That's just kudos to you guys for that, for sure.
Yeah, so I'll just make that really clear, because we've been getting some questions about that since the announcement. So if you have an Ancestry subscription, of course, you just can access them, like you said, through the card catalog. You can access them by searching through your tree or any of the other ways that you normally use the Ancestry website. If you have an Ancestry account, but no subscription, you can still access these records, and the fastest way to do that, again, is going to be through the card catalog. But if you have no Ancestry account, no Ancestry subscription, you've never used Ancestry before, but you're still interested in these records, the way that you can use them for free without having to sign up for anything is just go to ancestry.com/alwaysremember, and you'll have free searchable access to this set of records, and then as those other records come online from this collection as well.
And I'll make sure that that link is in the show notes and on the blog.
Great.
So that everybody can just click on it and go straight there.
Fabulous.
Yes. Wow. That is just incredible. So let me ask you, how much detail will a person find inside these records?
You know, like I said, I've been working a lot with the passenger lists. And for example, I was just looking at a family tree that I was working on yesterday. And a woman had a question about her grandmother and her grandmother's experiences during the war in Germany. And we found 2 documents in that one collection for her grandmother. One of them was like a family card. So it listed her maiden name, it listed her birth date, it listed where she was born, it listed where they had been resettled. So the displaced persons camp they were in was in Germany. They were being resettled, she and her husband and a stepson, to Canada, and they were going through Bremen. So the card was the camp's way of keeping track of where people were going. And then, so she's on that, and then she's also on a passenger list out of Bremen to Canada. And so we have both of those documents that have tons of detail, both about the family structure as well as about the individuals.
Well, that is fabulous.
Yeah.
And so another point that I would like to make too is when you drill into these records before you do your search, if you scroll down to the bottom, as I'm always encouraging people to do, you can see a little bit more detail about the records in the notes that the Ancestry has here.
Yeah, always read the database description.
Well, this is terrific. Is there anything else that you want to share with us before I ask your next question?
Yeah, you know, this is a partnership. This partnership with the Arolsen Archive, it's been a long time coming. Ancestry has an established relationship with the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum, who will also be getting copies or have received copies of the index that we've created for this. But we have been digitizing and indexing records with the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum for years as well. And so if you just do a search for Holocaust in the keyword in the card catalog, you'll see all of the collections that are beneficial to help in the process of this kind of research. So while the Arolsen Archives records are the most recent and the most comprehensive, there are other records that give different levels of details that have been available on Ancestry for several years as well.
Well, I can't wait to dig in and take a look at some of what's there.
Yeah.
So I understand you've been traveling a lot.
Yeah, always.
And I want to think you've got another one coming up soon.
I do, yes. So the Federation of Genealogical Societies, also known as FGS, their annual conference is coming up in, well, 2 weeks from when we're filming. I'm not exactly sure when this is going to air, but then that's in Washington, D.C. So I will be there. Ancestry will be there. If any of you are going to be there, please come by the Ancestry booth in the exhibit hall. We also have several classes that we're teaching throughout the conference. We will have these records available for people if they've got questions about using them or any of the records on Ancestry. And then we are doing a screening of the award-winning documentary short, Railroad Ties, which Ancestry put together about the Underground Railroad. And we'll have one of the researchers and one of the family members from the film that will be there as a panel after we do the screening of the video. So if any of you are in the area or attending the conference, we would love to have you come to that event.
Awesome. Fabulous. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to give us a little bit of background on these two records,
Yeah.
very important record sets. I was so excited when I was on the call with you guys a few weeks ago and learned about them. And I was like, oh yeah, we're going to be talking about this one.
Yeah. Yeah, they are important.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.